What's up guys, Ryan back with Moto Expo, and today we're going to be doing a SDR Gusset Kit install on this 2020 Can-Am Turbo RR. Now we're going to start taking off the A-arms and your hubs and brakes to get in there and do the Gusset Kit. We're going to start by taking off the caliper, and then we're going to remove the cotter pin and take out the axle nut and remove the whole disc. Your axle nut right here is going to be a 1 3/16. We will remove this lower bolt in here in the knuckle. And then you should be able to drop the lower arm out of the knuckle. Next, we're going to remove this cotter pin and remove the tie rod. And that should give you movement to get your axle out of your knuckle. Next, we'll remove the sway bar, get a little more access when moving the arm. Next, we'll remove the diff module to be able to access this bolt and the rear bolt. Go ahead and tuck that diff module up there out of your way. Now we have plenty of access to this rear A-arm bolt and this front A-arm bolt. Next step, we're going to drill out the rivets on this A-arm to get the brake line free. Now sometimes to get the rivets all the way out, you have to use a hammer and a chisel. And then you got one 10 mil bolt down here you remove, and then your brake line will be free. So now we've removed all the necessary parts to be able to go ahead and remove our A-arms and then start installing the Gusset Kit. Go ahead and start with the two top bolts. Two bottom bolts back here are captured, so you don't have to worry about holding the backside with the wrench. We're going to do the rear A-arm bolts. So sometimes when removing this bolt, you may have to turn the wheel a little bit to get the rack out of your way. And go ahead and just set the A-arm off to the side for now. Last step is removing the two bolts on the lower A-arm. Now they are captured as well, so you won't have to worry about holding them from the backside. To remove these, you just gotta kind of pull them. Can be kind of a little bit of a pain because these wear plates right here will grab on the studs. If you break these wear plates, don't worry about them, because with the Gusset Kit you will not need them anymore. All right, so next thing we got to do is just remove these two little 10 mil bolts right here. You can just throw those away because they will not be needed. All right, so now we can actually start installing the SDR Gusset Kit. We're gonna start with the lower upper back piece. It's got 2 bolts, 2 nuts, washer on each side. Put the 2 bolts in. A little tricky to get to. Repeat the process for the other side. And we're just gonna leave these bolts loose for now. Now we're gonna set the upper bracket in place. Same thing as the back one. You got 2 bolts, washer on each side, and we'll leave them loose for now. So you got 2 pieces that look a little similar. The one for the rear is gonna have the smaller hump, and the one with the bigger hump goes up front. Go ahead, you just set that in place for now. So this next step is a little tricky. You will need 2 people because you have to line up this front piece and the back piece with both A-arms and slide them all back at the same time. Sometimes you can get the back started a little bit before you have to mess with the front. Now we're ready. Put the upper A-arms back in place. Now we got the rack out of the way. We'll start with the rear bolt. Now we'll do the front upper plate. Go ahead, repeat process for the other side. Go ahead, put some Loctite on the bolts and just snug the bolts for now. So on this upper rear plate, we're gonna go ahead and tighten up the A-arm bolts first, and then we're gonna go tighten up the 13 mil bolts that hold the gusset in place. And these top bolts back in. Sometimes they line up, sometimes you might have to jump a little bit, or like what I'm doing, they just thread right in. There we go. Now your gusset kit's all installed. We can go ahead and start throwing the car back together. So first thing we're gonna do is put this diff motor back in. Just make sure you get it lined up right. You'll hear it like kind of click in there. On these bolts, you don't want to go super tight, just snug them up. Ready to put our disc assembly back in. Make sure you get your splines all lined up. Sometimes you might have to pick it up a little bit, rock it back and forth, get a couple hits. Now your castle nuts, you want them super tight. Go ahead, drop your cotter pin back in there. If you didn't mangle the original ones, you can go ahead and reuse them. If not, put some new ones in there. Now we can get our brake rotor back on. On the brake rotors, I like to use just like a drop of LOC-TITE. Get those in there, go ahead and get them tightened up. Okay, next step, we're gonna go ahead and reattach our sway bar. Go ahead and loosely install the bottom of the radiator onto your bulkhead. Now you got these little misalignment spaces, just make sure you get them aligned. You got one on the front side, one on the back side. And then it's gonna go washer and nut. Repeat process for the other side. We're gonna go ahead and just leave these loose until we get our shocks back in. We'll put the shocks in and then we'll tighten these up. So when putting the shocks back in, you gotta pay attention. You do have a driver side and a passenger side. Your reservoir is gonna sit forward like this opposed to like that. See how you can already tell when putting this one back in, it's wrong because top part of your shock right here is hitting your shock tower. If installed wrong, it will cause some serious damage. Go ahead and start with your top bolt. Pick the A-arm up a little bit, get it lined up. Head and drop some Loctite on both these bolts. And go ahead and install your nuts. Now we're gonna go ahead and finish tying up these two lower radiator support bolts. And then we'll rivet our brake lines back in. Guys, we're almost done. One of our last steps we have to do now is tie up our brake lines. I'll put this screw back in that we previously removed. Then we're gonna rivet the other three back into place. Thank you guys for checking out our install video on this SDR Gusset Kit. For more videos like this, follow us on YouTube or motoexpo.com. Be sure to subscribe.